Welcome to the question of the day. Today's question is from Derek in Georgia. And Derek asks, I'm a salesperson and I'm new to sales. I'm new to the industry. I don't feel like I'm getting the support I need, and I'm scared I'm going to fail. What do I do? That's a heavy question. There's a lot in that question, but a very real question as well. I believe no one gets out of bed and says, "Man, I hope I suck today." Nobody. I know it seems that way. I know we all think like, oh no, I know a guy who think that's no, nobody gets out of bed and says, I'm gonna suck today. We all want to be successful at whatever it is that we're doing. But the reality is we all also need support. None of us, none of us can do this alone. And this is something that's personally humbling to me as well as I take pride in doing it myself. Sometimes like a 3-year-old trapped in a grown man's body, just, I can do it myself. I do always think I can do it myself. But as I'm getting older, I'm realizing I can't. Nobody does this on their own. I'm part of a men's group through my church, and they're ones that have kind of helped me realize like we can't do this alone. Nobody's doing it alone. We're all somewhere and struggling. So this question doesn't just apply to, hey, I'm new and I need support. This question applies to veterans as well. Veterans struggle with this exact same question. Veterans that are asking themselves, I've always done it this way, and now I need to adapt. I need to adapt to new technologies, new processes, new systems, AI, whatever that is, right? Like, so veterans are asking that same question. Veterans are asking, hey, the market has shifted and I need to adapt. Our customers are different. Or they're even asking the question, are the customers different? Has the market had shifted? How do I know? How do I find out to even know that I need to adapt and change and that I need support? Or I'm new and I'm taking a big risk with this sales thing here. So there's a lot of different versions of this question, but I want to address that up front as like, nobody does this alone. We all need support. I took that same risk when I got into sales. I never, like most people, I never dreamed I would be in sales, right? Like I didn't take the sales major in college or anything like that. I was a teacher, and my wife was a teacher as well. And through some conversations and trying to figure out how you afford a house and kids and a family with two teacher salaries, like one of us, me, ended up getting into sales, right? But I remember that when I started in sales, like, is the sales thing for me? And I remember one of my first experiences. So I started in auto sales. That was my first sales job. And I sold to this little old lady, sweet little old lady, like anybody's grandma. And and as she was about to take possession of her new to her used car, she said, "You know what I like about you?" And I was like, "What's that?" And she goes, "You're not a very good salesperson." And in that moment, like all these things came racing through my head like, "Oh my God, what does she mean? I'm not good at this. I just threw away my teaching career to come do this. Like that was a big gamble. Like what if this doesn't work out?" Like all these things are flooding through my head. And then she points to my sales manager who, I mean, he looked like a used car sales manager. And she said, "He's a salesman. I don't like him, but I like you. You're not a salesperson." I said, "Oh, okay." And then she hugged me and she left. And later that night, I was laying in bed and I was thinking, who hugs their salesperson? Like who does that, right? And so I realized she wasn't saying anything negative about me. In fact, she probably gave me the best compliment ever. I was probably the best salesperson because she didn't see me as a salesperson. But that same person she said was a salesperson, that was my sales manager. And actually, I credit him with really everything. He took me under his wing. He taught me how to treat a customer. He taught me how to be respectful. He taught me most of everything I learned about sales starting out. And because he took me under his wing, that's what made sales successful. I think if I would have landed sales at any number of other places, especially in automotive, I probably would have failed because I wouldn't have been able to adapt to that kind of culture, or I wouldn't have had the support to be successful. But I had a lot of success starting out. We had 28 locations, 180 salespeople, and within the first 3 months, I was in the top 10% of salespeople. Like, and I don't have any special super skills or anything. I had somebody who took me under their wing, got involved with what I was doing, taught me things, took time out of his day. Like, I had somebody that did that for me. So we all need somebody. None of us do this alone. But as my career progressed, then I got into a career of training sales, coaching sales, and and I started to realize like not everyone had the luxury that I had. Now that doesn't mean there's a ton of bad sales managers out there, but what it means is there's a ton of stressed sales managers. There's a ton of sales managers that are pulled in way too many different directions and have too much on their plate, and they don't realize you aren't getting what you need. So it's not malicious intent. Again, nobody gets out of bed thinking we're going to suck and not support the new guy, but it's just oversight, right? I got too many things on my plate. And so when you think about it though, a manager, a sales leader's job, number one job is to make sure their people succeed. Whatever that means. Make sure that others succeed. That's what a good leader does, a good sales leader does. And so I think the answer to this question really comes down to communication. Okay, communication. And it's a lot of the same things I talk about in coaching calls and trainings and webinars and whatnot. Ride-alongs, trainings, one-on-ones, call debriefs after the call, establishing a win the day, setting up goals. Like these are the types of communication and support you need for consistent growth, for consistent success. And if you're not getting these, well, we need to have that conversation with your manager. So there's a concept called manage your manager. And sometimes you have to manage up, manage that person above you because they don't realize you're not getting the things you don't need. And they're too busy to see that you're not getting those things. So what you need to do is you need to tell them what you need to be successful and be very specific on the things you need to be successful. And I want to emphasize the word tell. Don't ask, tell, because you deserve this. These are the things you deserve. So don't ask, tell. And in fact, that's a sales trick, right? Like we talk about that in terms of sales. Like if we're talking about scheduling a second visit for the customer, we don't ask them if they want to do a second visit. We tell them we're going to do a second visit. Does this time work or that time, right? We give them an either or, but it's never a yes or no question. Same thing here. I need to tell my sales leader what I need. Yes or no is not an answer here. I'm telling them it's an either or of what time works for you. And so here's what an example that would sound like. It would be like, hey boss, look, I need some direction here. I need some individual goals. I need some actions to keep me focused, to help me be successful. What time works for you to sit down and help me set some goals that align with the company goals as well? What time would work for you? That would be an example of managing your manager. I'm telling them these are the things I need. And then we sit down. And when we have that conversation, we're going to go over what exactly are the things that I need. When I phrase it in that manner, hey boss, I need some direction, some individual goals, some actions to be successful, and I want to align with the company goals. What time works for you to sit down? When I ask that question, who's going to say no to that? Nobody. A good manager is never going to say no to that. They may say something like, well, I can't right now, but how about Friday at 8 o'clock? They're going to say, perfect. It's on the calendar now. We got a time, right? That's a step in the right direction. We have the conversation scheduled. That's what I want to happen. And then let's make sure that conversation happens. They'll make time. They will. As busy as they are, they're pulled in a million directions. They're still going to make time. Only a bad manager would say no. They would say something like, we don't do goals here. Something like that, right? And that means you're in a bad culture, bad company. That's super rare though. Like I rarely run into that. I've run into it a couple of times, companies I visited, but super rare. Most times it's just we're pulled in too many different directions. And coincidentally, this always ties into poor performance too. So those companies with the poor culture that aren't going to support you, they have high turnover and very poor sales results. The companies that are going to make time, they have less turnover and very high sales results. So one of my mentors, Eric Bowles, leadership coach, He says, I've never seen a highly confused, successful team. That's what it comes down to, communication. Okay. When you're the sales leader, you need communication, over communication. You need to be doing ride alongs. You need to be doing trainings. You need to be doing one on ones. You need to be doing call debriefs. You need to establish a win the day. You need to have goals that you and your team are going after. And as a salesperson, you need those things too. And if you're not getting it, ask for it. I'll leave you with this example. I had a sales manager. It was a first time coaching call that I had with him. And immediately he jumps into the call and he says, yeah, I need to fire my salesperson. I was like, oh, well, tell me this. Like, how, okay, tell me why, right? Like, what have you seen on your ride alongs? He goes, we don't do ride alongs here. Okay, well, what kind of, how do you support them through training? They're a professional. They can figure it out on their own. Do you guys do one on ones? No, I mean, they come to me if they need something, you know? When you talk to them after the call, only if something goes wrong. Only if something goes wrong. So the only communication we get is like, you screwed something up, right? How about a win the day? Do they know what's that? Like, he didn't know what the win the day was, right? And so I knew the answer to my last question. Do we have goals? Like, no, we don't have any goals. We have nothing to, the budget, we got to hit the budget. Okay. Do they even know what the budget is, right? Like, he couldn't answer any of those questions. And what I wanted to say was, I wanted to say some polite version of, dude, we should be firing you. Because, like, what do you do? Like, really? And that's what we got into on the call then, was like, what else do you do in your job? Right. And it came out in this call that, like, you did a lot of spreadsheets, stuff like that. But honestly, like, I don't need a manager for that. I can hire someone much cheaper to just fill in spreadsheets. And honestly, today, I mean, that call was 10 years ago, but today, I could probably have AI do that. Okay. So this salesperson was going to get fired. Probably didn't even know they were going to get fired. Probably would have been blindsided by this. Didn't even know they were underperforming because we weren't supporting that person. Right. But that's rare. That's rare. You as a sales leader, you have the opportunity to do the ride alongs. You're going to find those opportunities without beating them over the head about it. You're going to train to help them improve every week and adopt that into the field. Think how much better they're going to be at the end of the year when they've got one thing each week that they're adopting into the field. You're going to give them one-on-ones. This is their meeting with you, their opportunity to check in with you, and you to help keep them aligned, right? To keep them on track. Debrief. You're coaching in the moment. After the game is too late, but you're coaching in the moment. Win the day. You know the score, and you're adjusting your gameplay based on that score. And goals. John Maxwell says a great leader knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. That kind of sales leader, that's worth gold. I can get anybody to run spreadsheets, but if you can ride along, train, one-on-one call debriefs, win the day, and set goals with your team, that's worth gold. So if you're a sales leader listening to this call, do those things. If you're a salesperson listening to this call and you're not getting those things, have that conversation. Manage your manager. A good leader's never going to say no. That's today's question of the day. If you're enjoying question of the day, follow, share, and give a rating. Question of the day is on major streaming platforms. If you have a question, reach out to me either on social media or email. Both are going to be listed below in the show description. Let's get your questions answered. And if you're a Nexstar member, schedule a call with me. Let's address this one-on-one and get very specific to your situation. I'm Coach Chris. We'll see you tomorrow.